And, just wanted to, as Daniel said, this week is going to be just such a great week in the life of our church. Like, we look forward to Summer Hummer every year. And the Sunday that follows it is Summer Hummer Sunday. And we are expecting a lot of new faces, a lot of new friends and family to come in and be a part and maybe walk through this church for the very first time and maybe hearing about Jesus for the very first time. And so I would love to just invite you to be a part of just how this welcoming experience with us. And there's a couple ways that we can just maybe roll out the red carpet a little bit better next week. And if you wouldn't mind parking on the outer edges of the parking lot, or maybe even the sides or the back, to just help people as they drive in to find a spot and make their experience just easier as possible as they come in. A second is that if you wouldn't mind, we expect that this service is probably going to have a lot more people and be maybe a hard time to find a seat. But so if you can move up and in, I know that it doesn't feel like church if you're not sitting in your spot. But if you wouldn't mind sacrificing that spot for just a week and just being, again, as people come in, maybe a little bit late, that they can find a seat right away. And then just be your warm and friendly selves. I am just so proud of this church. We are constantly hearing how welcoming and how friendly this church is by new people that are coming in. And so just continue to just look for those new faces, get to know them, invite them, have them sit with you, or help them just ease this experience as much as possible, because we're just going to have a great time, and we want them to be a part of this congregation, this family. Well, as we get started into the sermon today, I want to start with a question. Have you ever been in a place where it's just completely dark? I mean, there's no street lights. There's no glowing screens around in your hand or on the room. I mean, it's just kind of complete darkness. You can't even see the hand in front of your face. I mean, that's kind of how dark it is. And it's amazing how it doesn't matter how familiar the room or the house that you is, as soon as you turns dark, it becomes unfamiliar. What you once was like peaceful and safety, like all that, all of a sudden you start to becoming unsettled and anxious, all because there's an absence of light. I remember several years ago, Debbie and I were putting our kids down for bed, and a storm rolls in. It wasn't a big storm, so we didn't really expect anything to happen, but all of a sudden the power goes out. It's completely dark. Now, if you've ever had a chance to raise some young ones, you know that whatever peaceful evening you thought you were going to have, whatever way that you thought you were going to wind down and just kind of relax is now gone. It's been canceled, because now your night is filled with panic and tears because the night lights don't work. And, you're sitting there going, I don't know where the flashlights are. I don't even know if they work. I don't know where the extra batteries are. And so all of a sudden, this once familiar house that I had I'm stumbling around the furniture, reaching into every drawer, trying to find a flashlight. And isn't it amazing, as you're reaching into these drawers, like every sharp object like stands out and kind of pokes you, right? As you're trying to and finally, thankfully I was able to find one flashlight. It did work. And so from that point on is that you're going around and you're finding the other flashlights and the other candles and the matches and just kind of getting everything ready. Every one of our children kind of went to bed with a flashlight in their hand. The storm didn't stop. The rain didn't cease, but that light just made them be able to see, made them be able to move, made them feel a little bit more comfortable in the darkness. And as I'm thinking about that experience, I'm kind of thinking back of what Jesus said like 2,000 years ago when he says, like, the world is dark, but one light can make a difference. Right, and so I want to talk about, if you have your Bible, I would love for you to turn to Matthew chapter 5 as we learn how to be a light in our neighborhood. Matthew chapter 5, as we think about how to be a light in our neighborhood. If you don't have a Bible, there's a black Bible in front of you. You can turn to page 810. And again, if you don't have a Bible, please take that one home as our gift to you. As you're turning there, we're going to divide our time into 3 parts. We're going to look at we are the light. We're going to see that we don't hide our light, and then we are going to see that we shine to glorify God. And so let's kind of dive into we are the light, and we're going to start reading in verse 14. It says that you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. So before we kind of really unpack this, I want to just kind of set the scene a little bit. Jesus is standing on the hilltop speaking his most famous sermon, the Sermon on the Mount. And as he's standing there, he's looking into the eyes of these ordinary people. Fishermen and tax collectors and moms and dads and tradesmen and farmers and all of these just regular, ordinary people. People who have dirt on their hands, doubts in their hearts, problems awaiting for them at home. And he says, you are the light. Now think about that for a moment. He says, you are the light. He doesn't say that one day you'll be the light. He doesn't think that one day you can be if you achieve, if you work hard enough, if you learn enough of the scriptures, if you do enough good things that you will enter this light status. No, he says, you are the light already, right now. See, what he uses an active present tense verb where he's saying you are. He's not talking about a future possibility. He's talking about a present reality. You are the light. And the great thing for us to kind of see in this is that if we are a follower of Christ, that if we have surrendered our life to him, that his light now bears in us. And he's telling us that this identity also belongs to you, that you are the light. Not because you figured it all out, not because you're perfect, not because you've kind of cleaned up all of your messy life and all that. He's saying that you are the light. Now live like it. Live, shine as my light lives in you. Now you may be thinking, this may sound all good and great and everything, but there's a lot of days I don't feel like the light. I don't feel like I'm shining really brightly. I got doubts, I have problems, I'm trying to navigate this messy life that I'm in. I lose my temper in traffic. I snap at my kids too many times for no good reason, right? Like we've all been there. But the good news is that our identity in Christ does not rest on our perfection, but Christ in us. Right? It's not about necessarily who we are. It's about who Jesus is and how he's come into our life. And therefore, we reflect his light. And the closer that we walk with Christ, the greater the radiance, the more how we illuminate for him. I think a great illustration of this is the sun and the moon. See, for those of you that take some science classes, right, have taken science, is that the moon is not a source of light. It just reflects the light of the sun. But on a clear and full night, the amount of light that is reflected off the moon will shine the horizon. That we can see trees and landscape and animals and sometimes even our own shadows because of the light that's coming off of the moon. And that's us. That we are called to reflect the light of Jesus. That when he lives in us, is that we are called to shine for him. Not because of who we are, not because that we are flawless, but because of who he is. Because we have been rescued, that we have been redeemed, because we have been brought into his family. So when Jesus says that you are the light, he's not just giving you a compliment. He's not just trying to say, hey, this is a status that you've earned. He's giving you a calling. He says, you are a light. Now go and act like it. Now go be light for others. Help people find their way home. Verse 14 moves on and says, a city on a hill cannot be hidden. In Jesus' day, cities weren't just randomly placed. It's that they were often strategized and they were put in strategic places on the highest, most visible place, on kind of on a hillside for people to be able to see. So as people are traveling from one city to the next, is that you can see one city behind you. You can also see the city in front of you. And as the lamps are glowing in all the homes and in the windows and the torches by the doors, is that it would just glow for people. And again, as travelers are coming, is that they can see that they're not alone, that there is a place that they belong, that they are almost home. And so as Jesus is telling us that we are the light, he's saying that this is how your light should shine. That you should be a hilltop for others. That people, as they see you, is that you are pointing people to go home to Jesus, right? That we are shining for him. So that means is that your job that you work at is not just a place for you to collect a paycheck. It is a hilltop for you to shine. The school that you're going to attend in the fall is not just a place for you to receive education or for you to learn. It is a place for you to glow. The grocery store that you frequent, the hairstylist, the sports that you take your kids to, and the people that you are around are all hilltops for you to shine for him. See, your address is not just where you live, it's where God has placed his light. It's for his purpose. So therefore we should shine. We should point people to Jesus. We may not realize that people are watching, but they are watching how we talk to others. When everybody else is speaking meanly and not being kind, they're listening. They're watching how we handle this moment. They're watching how we listen when people are going through hard times. That do we stop and pause and do we hear other people? They're watching how we show kindness when other people are inconvenient. They're watching how we stand up for others and try to fight for justice for those that can't. They're watching how we help one another and care for one another. They're watching how we are encouraging and speaking life and to each other when negativity surrounds us. They are watching. And we are to be light. We are to stand out. We are to look at everywhere that we have been placed as a hilltop for other people to see and to point people home. Let's take a look at verse 15. It says, "Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and gives light to all in the house." Well, after Jesus calling us to light, he then uses kind of a ridiculous analogy, especially at that time. Because back in those days, it's like, they would light a lamp, and that lamp, they would try to put it in a place where it would bring light to the entire room. It would be ridiculous for you to light a lamp and waste the oil that can be expensive by putting a bowl or some type of shade or covering over it. You are trying to get as much light as you possibly can. And so when he says, don't light a lamp and put a bowl over it, that would be completely ridiculous. I'm sure there were some scoffs and some snickers that were coming from the crowd. What in the world? I mean, it's kind of like if we would brush our teeth and then eat a sleeve of Oreos, right? That doesn't make sense. Or we floss our teeth and then we bite in some corn on the cob, right? It's backwards. We make our bed and then we jump in to go to sleep. We take a shower and then we go on a run to work out. All those things just sound ridiculous to us. And that's the same thing as Jesus saying, don't light a lamp. Don't put a bowl over your light to hide it. See, God has given us light, not for ourselves, but to shine for him, to allow other people to notice him. But unfortunately, we tend to hide our light, don't we? Unfortunately, it seems to be natural for us to kind of cover this light up, to try to want to blend in, to not shine too much for him. We'll put bowls over our light, a bowl that may be called fear or being afraid, because we don't want people to look at us differently, treat us differently, to laugh, to persecute, to make us suffer in any way. And so we put this bowl of fear over our light. Or maybe it's a bowl of insecurity where we feel like we're not qualified. Well, don't look at me. I don't want to be the light. Listen, I'll point you to a different light. Look at them. Look at that pastor. Look at this missionary. Look at this Sunday school teacher. Look at this person that knows a lot of verses. Don't look at me. I don't want to be the light. I'm not qualified, but look at these people. Or maybe we'll put a bowl of busyness over our light, where we're so busy running from one place to the other that we can't even fathom, we can't even think about being a light to others. It's that we're not even thinking that we can shine for Jesus, because all we're trying to do is go from A to B to C as quick as possible. And so we're putting this bowl of busyness over our light. But Jesus is saying, I have put you there for purpose. I've given you light, not for you to hide it, but to shine, to allow other people to see it, to change the room, because that is what light is there for, is to push back the darkness, not allow the darkness to cover the light. I think about the story of Esther. If you ever heard of this story, this is a great story that I think that deals with our topic very clearly. And that, if you haven't, is that Esther was a Jewish woman living in the land of Persia. And through some dramatic events is that she becomes the queen of Persia. Now imagine this, as a Jewish woman, is that you would never thought that you would be the most highest ranking woman in all the land, married to the king, the most powerful king in all the world. She had everything that she wanted. She was living the most luxurious life that you can imagine. And you wouldn't want to do anything to kind of wreck that, would you? Like, I got everything that I want, and so I'm just going to try to hold and kind of keep the status quo because I want to keep all of this. Well, one day, a wicked man named Haman comes and tricks her husband, the king, to destroy all the Jews, to persecute them, to even kill them. And so she has now a conundrum, that she has the decisions that she has to make. Do I reveal my identity as a Jewish woman and everything could change for me? Or do I stay quiet? She has access to the king that could help some people, but it could change her entire life. The other problem that she has is that there is a law in the land that you can't appear before the king unless he summons you. And so she's trying to figure out, she hasn't been summoned. And so does she take the risk and appear before the king? She could lose her life. Now, we could think about this and what we would do, right? I mean, we would sit there and like, I like the things that I have. I want to keep it. We could make a really good argument of like, you know what? Let someone else do it. Let someone else kind of step up in courage. I want to keep and hold on to because I'm the queen. Well, her cousin Mordecai, who helped raise her, says this to her. He says, "For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have come to this kingdom for such a time as this." In other words, Mordecai is saying is that you have been given light. You are the light. Now shine. Shine. Impact others. Let other people benefit from the light that you've been given. Esther does appear before the king, exposes Haman, and is able to save her people. That God used her in this moment for such a time as this. And we may not be royalty. We may not have that type of platform, but we are children of God. That we have been given the Holy Spirit, that we have been called to a specific neighborhood, to a specific job, to a specific school, to a specific sport team. And we are called to share and to shine our light for others so that we can push back the darkness, so that other people can benefit the light, so that we can lead people home. I remember several years ago now, I was in high school, and we had something called See You at the Pole. I don't know if you've heard of it, but See You at the Pole was like the first Wednesday of the school year is that Christian students would gather around the flagpole to pray for peers, teachers, and just the school year, right? And so it wasn't a huge event, but it was a public event, especially where the flagpole was at our school. The flagpole was right where all the buses came to let out all the students. So as Christians are there praying, like hundreds of students are coming out of these buses to go into their classes. So you were going to be seen. Right? Like there was no hiding who was there. There's like 30 Christian students that was kind of, praying at this flagpole. And I believed in God, but I wasn't ready at this time to have my faith visible. So the first 2 years, I didn't go. The first 2 years, I kind of stepped back and let other people going to pray for it. And I remember after my sophomore year, I felt guilty, I felt convicted. And then I came home, and in the quietness of my room, I just heard God kind of whisper in my heart, "Are you ashamed of me?" And it just it floored me. It convicted me. Because I started to realize I was more worried about my name than his name. I was more worried about my popularity than God's popularity. I was more worried about who I was and what I wanted to do than who he was and what he was doing in my life. And so over the next year, like him and I are wrestling, we're talking, he's pushing me to be visible with my faith. And I knew exactly what he wanted me to do. Junior year, to show up at CU at the pole. He wasn't asking me to speak. He wasn't asking me to pray out loud, but he was saying, stand there and pray. Man, so I did. I got there early. My knees are shaking, right? The buses are coming. The students are letting out. Like I can hear some snickering. I can hear some of this kind of stuff. But I stood there and we prayed. I don't think it's any coincidence that just a few days and weeks after that, my friends started to talk to me about my faith. That all of a sudden, my friends were starting to come to church with me. That a year later, God was calling me into ministry. Because I think it started right there. Jared, will you be visible for me? Will you let your light shine? Will you tell other people about me? There's so much more that I want to do, that I've placed you at this school with this group of friends for purpose. Will you use it for what I've called you to do? And we have that same decision, that same choice. Do we believe that God has placed us in our jobs, in our schools, in our sports events for purpose, to shine for him? Because here's the truth. If you're hiding your light, someone else around you is in the dark. God didn't give you light to keep it to yourself. He gave you light to change the room, to push back darkness, to help other people see him. And the great thing about this is that not all of us need to stand up on stage and preach a message. Not all of us need to grab a microphone and sing. Praise God, right? Like, there's no one coming that it's not contagious, right? There's no light shining from me if I'm up here singing, right? But, it's that he's not calling all of us to do and be on the platform, but there are simple ways that we can shine for him. Ways that we can allow ourselves to glow in our work, in our neighborhoods, and all these other places. An easy one is just to speak life into the negative places. We live in a world of so much hurt and hatred and anger that's going on. In our jobs, it's that we gather around the water cooler, whatever that water cooler means to you, that we gather and we hear gossip and complaining and criticism. What if we spoke words of life, encouragement, affirmation? What if we really told people and complimented one another and people would this is different. Why do you speak differently? Another thing is that we should be interruptible. That we shouldn't live our life in such a way that people can't interrupt, and that we don't stop and listen. That we don't stop and see other people who are going through hard times. That maybe God has called you in those moments to just say, hey, I know you're struggling. Let me hear the story. Hey, let's go grab coffee. Can we grab lunch sometime? I don't know if there's any words of wisdom that I can give you, but at least you know you have a friend that will do life, come alongside and do life with you. Let me just hear what God is doing or what's happening in your life. That we practice quiet generosity. That while someone is telling us their story, is that we are listening and seeing how we can bless or how we can invest into their story, to step into their story. Or maybe God has called you as you're sitting there, eating a meal, to pay for someone else's meal. Or that you buy a gift card and you just give it to a friend, a neighbor, something, said just thinking about you. We just want to show some generosity. I mean, this is kind of ultimately what we want to do to this neighborhood, Olympic Springs, and how we're building these welcome baskets. Is that whether they come to this church or not, they could go to another church. They may never come to our church. We just want them to know you are seen, that you are known, that you are loved. And then here's a free gift, no strings attached, no expectations. We see you. We're going to be neighbors. Let's be hospitable. That we serve others. So many times it's that we wait to be asked. We wait for someone to say, hey, can you? That maybe that we be active in our faith and we say, I see that you're struggling, and so I'm going to help you. I'm going to provide a meal for you. You don't have to eat the meal, but I am going to give you the meal, right? Like I'm going to come alongside. I'm going to cut your grass. I'm going to help you with this fence. I'm going to help you do these things because I know you didn't ask for it, but I'm going to help you because I see you. I remember when Debbie and I first came to Westwood, is that there was a lot of people I would say, that came up to us and said, hey, if you ever want us to watch your kids, just let us know. Well, it was a great and nice gesture, and I appreciated it so much and everything, but sometimes you don't know, like, are they just being nice? Like, is this just one of those things where they say this, but they really don't want to watch the kids? Plus, I don't even really know these people. Do I want to trust them with a kid? Like, you're having all of these thoughts and all of these things. And then one person comes to me and basically every single week asks me, can I watch your kids? Can I watch your kids? Can I watch your kids? Okay, we'll go on a date. Right? But like, we realized that she really wanted to watch. She really wanted to help us out. She kept investing. She kept asking. She kept asking, can we watch your kids? And so that was just such a great help for us. The last thing, is that invite a new person over your house. It's one thing to just wave to a neighbor as they drive by, to say their name. It's another thing to say, hey, we're going to have a barbecue. You want to have some hamburgers and hot dogs with us? Like, all of a sudden, the relationship changes at that moment. It's no longer like, hey, we're going to just be neighbors. We're going to share a fence. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, we're going to do life. That, like, we want to know you. We want to be a part of it. Like, as messy as it is, we're here for you. And we're going to do life. So, to be hospitable, make room at your table. All of these small things can just bring a spotlight on God. So don't let fear convince you to put a bowl over your light. Don't let this world to say, hide the light. That God has given you a stand, that he's given you a hilltop for you to shine and to push back the darkness, to bring light to wherever that you are. Let's look at how we can shine to glorify God. Verse 16. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. So here Jesus is kind of talking, he's kind of giving us the why, he's giving us kind of the how. How do we let our light shine? Why should we let our light shine? It's not so that we are seen, so that we point people to him. And how best do we do this? Is through our good works. And so what he's saying is that through your love, through your encouragement, through your forgiveness, through your mercy, through your grace, you are pointing a spotlight onto God. You are like a window allowing other people to see how good and how great God is by who you are. I mean, your generosity shows off his provision in your life. Your compassion reflects his kindness. Your grace points to his forgiveness. Your joy shows that your joy is not centered around your circumstances, but on someone else. That your kindness shows them and makes them wonder, where is this all coming from? I want to know what is going on within you. See, Jesus is saying that good works aren't optional. They're missional. And that when we do good, that when we serve, that when we show up, that we're pointing people to Christ. We're saying, this is my God. Look at how good he is. Now, Peter was talking to a church at this time that was going through some great persecution and a lot of suffering, and he's trying to encourage them. And so he writes 1 Peter. And in 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 13, he says, now who is there to harm you if you are zealous for what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you will be blessed. Have no fear of them, nor be troubled, but in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. So Peter is basically making the argument is that even through the suffering, it's like, if you're doing good, like a lot of people aren't going to push back on good works. Like, most people are going to want to say, they're going to thank you and look at you a little bit different. Like, no one's going to say, no, I don't want that gift card, right? Like, most people don't do that. They receive it. But he says, even if they do, through your good works, it says they still don't like you, continue to do it. Continue to point people to God. Continue to live with joy. Continue to be the light where God has called you. Because that's just going to put a greater spotlight on your faith. And eventually people are going to say, why? Why do you continue to live this way? Why do you continue to live with joy in hardship? Why do you continue to forgive when other people have done you wrong? Why do you continue to turn the other cheek? Why do you continue to give an extra cloak to a person that steals and takes it? Why do you do this? Because of how great our God is. That we get to say, hey, I'm showing love because Jesus showed me love. Hey, I want to show you kindness because let me tell you about how the kindness that my Savior showed me. And we get to continue to show and share that testimony with others. Once again, I think the early church is such a great example of this. Kind of a famous passage, Acts 2:42 says it this way. And they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayers. And awe came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belonging and distributing the proceeds to all, as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And then I love this last part. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who are being saved. If we look at this passage, is that what we see is that God was adding to this number, not just because of the apostles' teaching, but because of how the early church was living. That people saw the generosity of their hearts. People saw their hospitality. People saw their humility. People saw their grace, the gracious living and how they lived with joy. People saw all of these, how they took care of the poor, how they cared for one another, how they lived in unity. And even though that they were suffering, even though they were being persecuted, is that people saw that you are living with greater joy and purpose and light than in my life that we could argue is a lot easier. I want to know why. And they were so curious is that the Lord was adding to their number daily. Imagine what would that look like as God would be adding to our church daily. Not just on Christmas or Easter, not just on Sundays, but daily. I have this dream. Is that, we've had, several people just get baptized. Easter, we had 12 people being baptized, and we love to see lives being changed. But my heart is that we live in such a way, as God is just adding to our church daily, that we have to move off of quarterly baptisms of how we kind of have it planned now to monthly, because we can't contain the amount of lives that are being transformed. Wouldn't that be amazing? That we just continue to see lives being invested because of community groups, as we see us doing good works and helping our neighbors and inviting people and telling them about Jesus, that we just are constantly having to have baptisms galore to show the testimony and the transformation of what God is doing in our church. That's what light is about. It draws, it's contagious, it changed the room, it pushes back the darkness. And all it takes is one light. All it takes is one flashlight to be turned on, and everything changes. I love the example that we have on Christmas Eve. And I know it's kind of hard to think about Christmas Eve when it's 88 degrees. We're getting ready for summer hummer. But on Christmas Eve, we have a candle lighting service where we take light from our Christ candle and we light another candle. And that light goes from 1 to 2. And then we go from 2 to 4. And then from 4 to many. And then as we sing the song of Silent Night, we look around the room, and this dark room is glowing. That's what we're called as the church. To glow in this dark world. To push back the darkness. to point people home to Jesus. As we are doing good works, we are pushing back the darkness. As we're paying for people's meals, we're pushing back the darkness. As we're watching someone else's kids, we're pushing back the darkness. As we're helping others to build their fence, we're pushing back the darkness. As we're speaking words of life, we're pushing back the darkness. And we're pointing people to Jesus. As we're walking 8 kids around this campus, in the heat of the day, we're pushing back the darkness. Jesus says in John 8:12, he says, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. That is our mission. That's why we are running after people who are far from him, is that they will know the light, the true light, and that they will have the light in themselves. That their whole room changes as a result of a light being turned on. So Westwood, we are called on this corner, Harrison and Kaiser, to push back the darkness of Olympia, to push back the darkness of the world. We have a great opportunity this week to push back the darkness. Let's pray as we just want to be a part of that. God, we thank you that you have given us this opportunity, and that you don't call us to be extraordinary. You just call us to be obedient. You call us to be faithful. Lord, I pray that we will be faithful with our light. Lord, that we will reflect you, that other people will come and they will be able to see the life that we live, and they will just ask, why? God, help us this week, help us next week, and weeks beyond, as we try to just live a life for you. Lord, help us to see if there's any bowls over our light, and help us to remove them. Lord, help us to just make a difference in our city and our world as we point people to you. In Jesus' name, amen.